We're live.
Hey, there you go. That's
We're on the internet. It's almost. This was almost like a perfectly smooth transition if I didn't fuck up the intro video.
I mean, I wasn't gonna call attention to it, but hey, good morning,
I'll roast
everybody.
myself. I don't care.
Oh goodness, that coffee hit. Welcome to another episode of. I legit forgot the name of our show.
Morning Ritual.
That's the one. I'm so tired, y'all.
It's okay. We're all tired here and a little hungover.
Well, I'm not hungover because I'm responsible. I don't drink on Fridays when I know I have a show on Saturday.
That's judgy. That was shady.
Listen.
I used celebrating.
I used to be the one that get lit on Fridays, and this one over here would just roast me. And now it's my turn because I'm responsible. I'm a professional now.
Well, I did actually wake up in time for the episode because I remembered to set an alarm with using the proper wake word.
And of course, our chat is not on our side. It's not on my side because they go, Anita, I made a slight error with the transition, and Noir goes, what's the name of our show again? Hi, everyone. Welcome to Morning Ritual. You go first. You are okay for this is a cluster.
It's always a clusterfuck. This is how we.
And that's our brand.
It's a good brand. I support this.
Listen,
I am one of your hosts, Noir. I go by he. And this is the host that has more of their stuff put together.
Not really. I keep interrupting you. Hi, I'm Anita. My pronouns are she, they. I'm your other host and channel runner here. And we've got an amazing guest today.
Yes, we do.
Kate, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Oh, hi. I'm Kate Bullock. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the community manager for Magpie Games. I'm an erotica author for Tales of Voracious. I'm a game designer, amongst other things. I do developmental editing and Kickstarter consultation and that kind of stuff as well. So,
yeah.
Like you, to my knowledge, you are the expert of all things monster fucking. Like that's how it's introduced to you.
Some people have said that to me, which I think is really interesting. I have been writing a monster erotica blog for a year and a half now. And I spend a lot of time researching the genitals of various animals that monsters look like. Like when I was doing the Lou Carew, which is like the snail, I spent a lot of time being like, Darcy, can you tell me about snail anatomy and how they have sex? And Darcy was like, absolutely, Kate, here are some articles for you. So now I know a lot about snail sex. They shoot darts at each other to try to make the other one want to have babies. It's called a love dart.
I love learning about stuff like that because I'm like, well, it's not lore that I'm ever going to present to my players, but as a GM, I kind of like that.
I'm writing a game about it, Noir.
I mean, that's
voracious.
I mean, I don't have the skill to bring that to bear, but I do love the arguments that I have seen on Twitter. Because people get real passionate about who's the better lover, vampires or werewolves, and that kind of stuff.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's an age-old argument. I definitely have opinions.
Well, I mean, it's obviously the werewolf,
right? Like, this is not a competition. It's the
Thank
werewolf.
you. Like, it's duh. We just hit running out the gate swinging, and I'm here for it. I honestly, I think. If I had to put my top 5, Succubus would be on the bottom of the top 5.
Okay, but like, can I tell you something interesting about them? Because okay, so in the original lore, what a succubus / incubus did was get women pregnant, and then they would obviously murder the baby and outcast the woman, but that's besides the point. So how they did that, though, because a succubus can't produce sperm, is a succubus and incubus are actually the same monster, and they switch genders to collect sperm from a man, being a succubus, and then use the same sperm to get a woman pregnant as an incubus.
They're a jizz super soaker.
So don't want all of it at one time.
I mean, that's the way to go. See, honestly, I think the monster that I would be most attracted to is my sleep paralyzing demon.
Oh, the hag?
Yeah. It's just like you can't move. It's just like it's a power move. And there goes my camera. We are firing on all cylinders today, folks.
Yeah.
You don't need images for talking about monster porn. Like,
No.
Use your imagination.
What do you think is the most underrated monster, if you don't mind my asking?
Most underrated.
And why is it the Tarrasque? No, I'm just kidding.
The most underrated Okay, so there's this cryptid that nobody knows about but me, and it is my favorite cryptid. It's called the Squonk.
Oh, I know about the Squonk.
Right. Okay. So like the Squonk's deal is they're warty and they have bad skin and they're kind of pig-like. And you can find them because they leave a trail of tears wherever they go because they're so lonely that they cry all the time. And so I'm like, what a best metaphor for human experience.
They're just like the saddest boy, the saddest, sweetest boy.
Right. So like I've never written monster fucking about it because it doesn't need to be fucked. It just needs to be hugged.
It just needs
and
to be
loved.
hugged.
Well, I mean,
Right.
it's got warts and its name is a squonk.
Right. It's so sad.
It was set up from failure from the beginning.
So it has my heart. I'm trying to think if there's any. I think the Neclavie is pretty fucked up, and I think people really underestimate how fucked up it is until they finally read about it, and then they're like, "Hello, yes."
It's like, you know, one of those wrinkle dogs.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
like,
I just looked at it. Oh,
it's really cute.
All of the fur from one of those wrinkle dogs, and then like make it cry all the time.
It's like a sad piece of KFC.
Give it clinical depression.
Somebody made squonk soaps.
I feel like I need to buy those now, though. So I love the Squonk. It makes my heart sad in the way that I like to play RPGs that are sad. So.
Right, you're not a squonk. I've just discovered what cryptids are like way too late, and like I understand them and I don't at the same time. It's like
they're incomprehensible.
Yeah, aren't they just like I'm trying like Bigfoot is like the cryptid, right?
Okay, so cryptid just technically so like a cryptid just technically is any creature that can't be proven to be real. So technically mermaids are cryptids. Like any mythological creature is technically a cryptid, but we tend to use it to mean a modern myth or legend.
Okay.
Even though it technically like a squonk. But Bigfoot is like the Bigfoot, Loch Ness, the Hodeg, Mothman, super popular.
Goatman.
Okay,
Goatman. I wrote a huge piece about the Goatman for my anthology, and my poor editor was like, "Is he raping her?"
What?
No, it's consensual, non-consensual. I promise.
Oh, God. Oh, I have a question because this has come up a lot, and if anybody would know the origin of this, I think it would be you. Why are so many people obsessed with the Mothman's butt?
Oh my God! Okay, so
that statue is caked up.
Statue? Oh, there's a statue.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a silver statue. Yeah. Oh, so well, like, there's no reason in the stories to be obsessed with Mothman's ass. It's more so that they made this sculpt to him, and it's got a great butt on it, and it's beautiful. And when you walk up to it, you do want to caress it. And so that's why people are obsessed with Mothman's ass. It actually has nothing to do with the stories.
Oh, okay. Because I thought
it's
there was
just
something
literally
about
the statue.
The Mothman shows up and just like squats and flies away or something.
No, I mean, the Mothman stories are so convoluted a little bit because of the movie that came out.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a movie.
Oh, the Mothman Prophecies is a whole movie, and if you were, it's a good time. It's
wait. I've heard of it. Isn't that with what's his fucking Richard Gere?
Richard Gere? Yeah. So it's a solid movie. I watched it a couple times and I was researching.
There's a link to
Mothman.
the picture of the Mothman's butt, Noir.
Okay, let me see.
It's important.
Oh,
right?
okay. No, I get that.
Right?
Okay. I mean, unnecessarily caked up, but oh my God, there's a bunch of people just touching it.
Yeah.
Just touching his butt.
It was a fun activity pre-COVID.
COVID's taking everything from us.
There's also a local Mothman museum you can go to and see all of the Mothman paraphernalia.
What is in it? I'm one of those non-believers. I'm like, there's no Mothman, so what is in a Mothman museum?
Well, because it's linked to a communal tragedy. So there was this like area where they did nuclear testing or stored nuclear items, I believe, that used to have almost like will-o-wisps, like balls of gas that would come up, and they illuminated the sky. And then after that, people started seeing this large creature that looked like a Birdman that later became Mothman. And in one incident, the Mothman like chased this car, like ran beside the car with its big red eyes. People went into this old abandoned building and saw it like lurch towards them really creepily and then jump off the catwalk in this area and fly away. And then another group of people were getting out of the car and saw it, and it ran towards them, and this woman dropped her child and then grabbed the child and ran back inside, and it like lurked around the house for a bit. So there's these like over 300 first-person accounts of it. But on top of that, there was this like case where Mothman was trying to theoretically warn them about something that was happening. And then on the Friday before Christmas in the town that this happened, and it was also a payday, there's a bridge that goes back and forth between the two sister cities on the state line, and the bridge collapsed while it was full of people. And so they believe that Mothman was trying to warn them about the bridge collapsing. There's also some stuff about like a voice calling people, and then the men in black actually showing up and interviewing people about this. So it's a really entangled story. But sightings of Mothman date back hundreds of years. So
Mothman is a structural engineer that was just like, I've checked this bridge.
Yeah,
it's structurally unsound.
Stop looking at my ass and listen.
It was a huge, I think like 40 people died. It was a pretty big tragedy. And ever since then they've said Mothman is linked to various tragedies, although it's not been reported anywhere else worldwide. But the movie says he showed up at Chernobyl. That didn't happen. That was not a thing.
Yeah.
But the movie is aggrandized the story, and so it's like Mothman is an alien who can see into the future and is trying to warn us about things. And it's like, that's not really how that story went. But thanks, Hollywood.
So there's so much lore to all this stuff. Like,
not the squonk though.
Not
it's just sad.
Squonk's just a sad boy.
What's fucked up is I still have the tab open for the Squonk, so as soon as he said that, I looked over to him.
Eyes.
And it's just looking at me like, it's a living.
That's great.
I imagine the Squonk sounded like one of the appliances from the Flintstones. So you've got a game coming out about all this stuff. How do you pick and choose what makes it in? Like, because I mean, just the Mothman alone, I'm intrigued. You can talk to me about the Mothman all day, especially if we're going to talk about how the Mothman bones.
Well, obviously with hypnosis, because mind control, like, you know. How do I decide what goes in? Page number is a huge part of that. Right now, what we're kind of working at is the core mechanics. We're guessing there'll probably be about 40 to 50 monsters in the core book. And most of that will be hiring people to work on monsters, because the limitations I set on myself is like, I just won't participate in cultural appropriation to the best of my knowledge and ability based on research.
Also, there are some cryptids that are unique to different cultures.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a ton of monsters that are unique to cultures worldwide. And
you're right. I the only one that I could think of, and I'm sorry for interrupting, is like, would La Llorona be considered a cryptid?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That was a shit movie.
Yeah. Well, I guess that actually ties heavily into the, it's linked to Bloody Mary.
Oh.
The myth. So they kind of like are sister myths in some way. So like I did a lot of research into Bloody Mary, which was super fascinating as well. But they are linked from what I understand, kind of like in North America specifically, white culture has like Bloody Mary, and then that bloody woman story is in multiple cultures.
I feel bad because I feel like black folks just straight up jacked the Bloody Mary myth and just made a Candyman.
I mean, fuck
Candyman
yeah, though, right?
Wasn't Candyman actually based off of a real person, though?
I don't know. I haven't looked into Candyman.
I think he actually was based off of like a real person. Like there was some closed off apartments, and behind them, like behind the old like bathroom mirrors, was space that he could come through and like.
Okay, all right. Well, I was already scared of Candyman, so thank you.
Yeah, I think Candyman was actually based off a real series of murders.
I didn't need that.
Correctly. I could be wrong.
That's cool. Urban legends are even better.
I didn't need that in my life.
Whereas Bloody Mary is the story of young AFAB folks getting periods, right? Like it's period lore.
And just as a human society, we have so thoroughly fucked up, like handling
We're not going to talk about periods.
Natural body occurrences.
But we'll make a monster out of it.
Like we are just so naughty. Like how long have humans been around? And we're just now putting out a cartoon that's kind of like lovingly explaining this. And people are still bitching about that. Like, sorry, it's just
yeah, that's a whole thing.
As a species, we suck.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Oh.
So monster lore is a lot of that.
Yeah. Like, and so do you have to say La Llorona's name? Like in a mirror? Is that how she works?
It's one of those things where like I knew I was not from that culture, and so I know about it, I haven't deep dived it.
Okay. But Bloody Mary, you definitely have to say
the name 3 times.
Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 11 times. It's very regional.
Depending on where you are, a couple names need to be mentioned.
Well, it could also just be one time. And the ritual of it is different. Sometimes you have to be alone. Sometimes you can be with your friends. Sometimes you have to say it in a mirror. Sometimes you can just say it. But it always is in a bathroom, and it often involves flushing the toilet after you do it.
Okay.
And it's always in a group of about 8 to 12-year-old, usually girls, that get involved in the myth. Which is why you can kind of summarize it's in a bathroom, and there's blood, and you flush the toilet.
Yeah. So here's my next question. Yeah. Have either of y'all done the Bloody Mary?
Of course I have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
I'm sorry.
It didn't work. Nothing happened.
That's peak whiteness. I have never, not one time, Bloody Married or Candyman.
It's a thing you do at like slumber parties.
But why though?
Because it's scary.
Yeah. And like worst case scenario, it's because your eyes don't adjust to the light properly in the dark of the bathroom, and your face looks weird in the mirror.
No.
That's all it is matrixing.
Worst case scenario is you get Bloody Mary's attention.
Yeah, I mean, my partner consistently says white women aren't scared of shit. So.
You like worst case scenario is like I look a little scary in the mirror. No, worst case scenario is you fucked around and then you find out. Like I just because I always watch these movies and I see people go into the beer and play those fucky games, and I'm just like, nobody actually does that.
Okay, but like you just said you don't believe in Mothman.
I don't. But if there was a way to summon Mothman, I'm not fucking with that. Just in case it's real.
Really? You wouldn't to get beat up by Have you seen his butt?
You know what you like? Y'all see that caked up Mothman and you're like, that's some sweet cheeks. I see that and I go, this motherfucker lifts. He's got the hands and he can fly. I'm good.
I mean, I guess I've just been writing Tales of Voracious so long, but I hear that I'm like, yeah, and tell me more.
I've had my ass kicked too many times to get my ass kicked by somebody that can fly too.
I mean, I'm sure he'll do something with your ass, but it's probably not kicking.
As long as he calls me pretty first.
The Mothman will always call you pretty.
He better cuddle me, Mothman. Well, I mean, being cuddled by wings would be pretty nice. Anyway,
and they're moth wings too, so they're soft and fuzzy.
Right?
Yeah, but then you got to think about it. If you laying in bed with Mothman and you just chilling and cuddling, you wake up and like, this motherfucker ate half your blanket.
Okay, but in his defense, and in his like canon here, you're probably not in bed with the Mothman. You are probably on a building or like out in public somewhere getting railed. Let's be real. Mothman is a voyeur.
We're gonna have to put like a content warning, I think, on this episode. Content warning: monster fucking.
That means they can romantically carry you while flying and eat my shirt. No, fam, I like this shirt.
It's only if it's wool. If it's like synthetic, you're probably fine.
It's basically like we're wearing cheeseburgers. It's like,
I mean, edible clothing is also a thing in human culture. This is not strange.
I'm just, depending on the outfit is whether or not I'd want to have a romantic encounter with Mothman. Well, I usually wear a leather coat, so I should be good. Anyway.
See?
You've already thought of this.
No, I'm thinking about it way too much.
I don't know what that feels like at all.
Oh God. So like what is the objective of race? Well, I mean, I can guess the objective of races, but like, can you run us through the game? Because I am curious.
Yeah, I mean, so Voracious is a god. They're a deity, or it's a deity, kind of eldritch, in its nature. And as a guardian, which is what your protagonist is, you invoke visions from Voracious to kind of see what creature is in need of care or help or aid or is lonely or whatever your jam is. And as a GM, you play Voracious, giving a series of visions, and the player can opt in or opt out depending on the visions. You can be like, oh yeah, no, I'm super feeling Mothman, or you could be like, I am not. Give me a dragon. And then you go and you kind of investigate the local area, including talking to mortals, seeing what's going on, what's happening, what's the story mortals are telling you about this monster, and what's the truth beneath that. So if you think about the Minotaur, for example, the Minotaur is a child of a human woman and a bull, and whose stepdad basically said, that's a monster, and we're going to lock it in a labyrinth and feed it people. And so in the story, you would engage with the mom, and you'd engage with the stepdad. You might engage with the bull. It doesn't talk, but that's a whole thing. What happened there? But you would go into the labyrinth and you would engage with the Minotaur, and that could be a sexual encounter, that could be an intimate encounter, that could be a meaningful conversation. It's whatever intimacy is to the players, who get to kind of opt into their intimacy levels, including asexual platonic friendship, and have that encounter with the Minotaur. And that can be super hot and sexy. It can be really loving and touching. It can be all of them, really.
That's really sweet.
And then you navigate exploring the world after. So do you help the Minotaur lead the labyrinth? Do you help them encounter their parents? Do they have that conversation? Like, what the fuck? You locked me in a labyrinth. Do they talk about why they're being ostracized for being a child of an interspecies relationship? So like, you can engage it on the levels that you want. You can have a really hot, steamy one-on-one game with your GM. and fuck around and be like, oh yeah, I totally ride the bull. Or you can be like, I'm really sorry that people have ostracized you for not being a human. And you do not need to have a conversation with these people. They are not worth your time. Come live with me and we'll form a cute little poly queer family. So
that's so awesome.
So yeah, I mean, like when I originally wrote it, I was just like, you are a monster fucker, you are fucking monsters. And my divine partner, Camden Wright, who is also my partner, but is like, babe, I love you, but this needs to have some substance. And so he brought a lot of heart into the game and mechanics too, because he's a brilliant mechanical designer and I'm not. So yeah, we're working on it now. It's gone through a lot of iterations as I've tried to figure out what I want to do with it, but that's kind of where we're at with it. And so it can be a sweet story and you can get your little monstrous family and retire out as a guardian, or you can keep going forever and just fuck monsters all your life, or just form meaningful bonds. But yeah,
just make yourself a little monster polycule.
That's kind of the point, yeah, right? That you can choose your family instead of having to be stuck with terrible people who don't want you. Because the guardians are also monstrous. They are ancestry is monstrous. So like in the main character that I'm writing in the anthology, her mom is a dragon. So they all have monstrous qualities of some kind.
That is dope. I'm laughing at like the first iteration where it's just like you're a monster hunter. You're a monster fucker and you fuck monsters. So I'm just imagining like showing up like the Terminator, just like, where's the nearest monster?
Right? I mean, that's how I had it in my head. And like I get why that's not super helpful as a game. It is definitely a Bluebeard's Bride one shot where you just fuck a monster and you leave. But we also wanted to make sure that like I have a lot of friends who are ace who were like, hey, I really want to play the game, but I don't want to have sex. Like I still want to have meaningful relationships with monsters. And I was like, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, okay. So
you gotta love thoughtful game design.
I mean, you only get thoughtful game design when you listen to people. And I think that's one of the things that game designers should do better. But Camden also brought like a ton of heart to it, and it would not be nearly what it is if it weren't for him. So
that's awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys like making such an amazing team on this project, because it really does sound like a very sweet game where you could just flip the switch and just get nasty.
Yeah,
it's the best way to approach it. It's just like your level of nasty may vary.
Pretty much, yeah. And you get to opt in at the beginning as to your level of nasty.
Nastiness is a spectrum, after all.
Right.
Best explained by one Janet Jackson. Thank you for getting that reference.
I got the reference.
So I have to ask, in all of your research into all of this, and especially because I believe you've been writing about monster fucking before you started doing this game. I'm curious, what has been the most surprising lore that you've kind of stumbled onto? That like has there been any kind of monster or cryptid where you're just like, I'm going into this pretty much knowing everything about what to expect, and then you kind of dug deep into the lore and found, oh crap, I was really wrong about this?
I mean, all of them to some degree. The approach I initially had was a very straightforward erotica approach where you fuck a monster, right? And so like when I wrote about, the first monster I think I ever wrote about was the gelatinous cube, which we'll call the ooze to not get sued.
I've got so many questions for how this works.
So I initially, it was just a joke on Twitter, right, about it. And people were like, yeah, okay, here's a monster I want you to write. And I was like, okay, yeah, fuck yeah. Challenge, bring it on. I'll write about an ooze, no problem. And it was great and it was sexy. But like I ended up doing a lot of research into each monster, and what you always come out with at the end of it is a really sad story about a creature that is usually ostracized for whatever reason. I think oozes, for example, are often just kept in dungeons and are forced to stay there. And like, yeah, they eat people, but like it's a natural predator relationship. It's not like they're out to just eat people. They just fucking eat shit, right?
Yeah.
And so in the first story in the Tales of Voracious anthology, the ooze is the first one. And it's about people trapping them to use as traps and stuff like that, and forcing them to live underground and reproduce that way. And the Guardian sets them free, obviously. But every monster has like this really unique story that's usually pretty heartbreaking. Like there's I can't remember, it's a Japanese myth about a smiling woman or something like that. And what she does is she, our artist was the one who actually brought this one up, but she asks you if you think she's pretty, and her face has been cut, kind of Joker style.
Oh, yeah.
And if you say yes, she murders you. If you say no, she murders you. What you're really just supposed to say is just like, it doesn't matter, essentially. Like, you're not supposed to opt into the beauty standards one way or another.
Right.
And like, what a really horrific story about beauty standards. You know?
Oh, yeah, that is a beautiful. I just imagine like, what's the right answer? just some guy just. Oh, fuck.
The correct answer is,
fuck.
what do you think?
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter to me, but what do you think? Do you think that you're pretty?
Yeah.
The deadliest game of Family Feud ever.
Yeah. So, and that's why I'm like, all of them have that, because when you start to poke around the myth, you start coming out with like these stories that are really horrific. Medusa was the one that touched me the most as a person who was raped by Poseidon, and then punished by Athena for being raped by Poseidon
In her temple. Yeah.
And Athena eventually is like, oh shit, my bad, I'll send a hero to murder you.
Instead of being like, the thing is that's like one myth that you could potentially turn on its head. It's that Athena blessed her with it to say that no man can ever fucking touch you again. Kill them all. But then the whole sending Perseus with the shield.
Yeah. The part that kills me is that Medusa is then like, oh my god, this is terrible. I'm going to go to a cave in the middle of nowhere where no one can find me, and then still show up to like fuck with her. And I'm just like, oh my god, I know this feeling in my soul. Just like in my soul. I know what it feels like to be sexually assaulted and then have your assaulter turn everyone against you, and still people come at you for it, right? And I'm like, oh my god. So Medusa spoke to me on a deep level.
I never considered the fact that she really did to be considerate to everybody. Hide herself away in a very difficult a place so difficult to get to that Perseus needed all of that shit from Athena to get there.
Yep. And then still wouldn't leave her alone. So every story has something to add to it, right? And I think what I love about the squonk is that there's no metaphor. Squonk is just treated as ugly and is therefore sad.
Just a poor wretched little creature.
I do have to say, it does feel like in the years, like in the recent years, there has been a swelling of popularity for Medusa, especially as a symbol for SA victims who are using that as a symbol of like power, and that's really dope to see. It feels like centuries too late, but Medusa's finally getting her due, which is just really cool. And I don't know how that started, but it's like it's swelling up, and it's almost impossible not to notice now. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago that it started being associated with the feminist movement. And there was a recent sculpt of a Medusa cutting off Perseus's head that was received with mixed criticism. Some women, or some, not even just women, actually some victims find it very empowering. And some are like, the point is not that we want to cut Perseus's head off. The point is that maybe just don't rape people. You know, so...
I mean, I'm like, personal opinion, I'm completely fine with her cutting his head off. It's just
But I also want to hear that restorative and transformative justice practices are like trying to say it's not about that. It is about changing culture, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was a transformative. I still am a transformative and restorative justice facilitator. So part of me has to like hear it and feel it in my soul and make space for it.
Yeah, I as you can imagine, I have a very what's it, skewed view of the justice system.
As you should.
AKA fuck that shit.
Yeah. I mean, transformative justice is really cool because it is actually coming out of activism work. Transformative justice specifically. Not restorative justice because they're different. But transformative justice is really, really cool. If people are bored and want to read about it, there's some great books out there, usually written by often Black women leaders in the movement, because it turns out white justice is stupid and wrong. Turns out.
Who knew? Who knew that justice written by cishet white men was
that's
fallacious?
That's because the 13th Amendment didn't get rid of slavery. They just turned it into incarceration.
It's great.
But just really quickly, could you give us just a baseline understanding of the difference between transformative justice versus my brain? Yeah, restorative.
Restorative justice is a practice that was taken/taught, depends on who you ask, from Indigenous culture. So it is a practice commonly seen in Indigenous communities, and they call it restorative justice circles. And so for a long time, white people used that and called it that too. Now you can't call it that because Indigenous people were like, what the fuck? But basically the idea is if someone breaks the rules of a community, you ask why they did it and what led to that moment and how you as a community can come together to help the person who broke the rules not do it again. And so this is still used today, especially in youth courts, where it is actually better to have the child re-engage the community and like clean or fix whatever they did. It was used quite actively in activist communities, I would say in the 90s and early 2000s as well, to try to fix harm done in communities. It didn't go great. A lot of it is very focused on the assaulter and doesn't have a lot of victim support. And so transformative justice came in being like, this is dumb and broken. And so the idea is, what can we do to make the justice part of it a transformative experience? And it's really focused on victim care, as opposed to the person who was assaulting or hurting the person. And so I think they both have places, and I think they're both useful. But transformative justice is really, really fascinating and really comes from a place of experience. So both are good to read, like if it's something that interests you, but restorative justice is so thoughtful.
These both sound very interesting and especially if the people initiating it are operating in good faith. I just don't believe anybody in our current justice system is acting in good faith.
Yeah, transformative justice is done mostly in grassroots communities. So it's not part of the actual air quote justice system, if that makes sense. Like it is done intercommunity. It is done with groups of people who trust and support each other and want to have their movements less toxic and less punitive. Transformative justice really focuses on the idea that if you can't engage in the punitive system at all. And basically, if you believe in it, you have to remove punitive thoughts from your life. So like if your partner is being a shit, you can't be like, fuck you, I'm gonna hurt you in response. Like you have to really think about it in a transformative way. How can we go forward transforming this moment into something healing and helpful? So it is a complete mindset change.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and if you're with a partner that's just like, fuck you, I want to hurt you, but fuck that person.
Yeah, but I mean, it's in our parenting culture as well, right? A kid does bad and we punish them. So punitive thinking is very, very entrenched, and it's not just as like black and white as like I'm going to hurt you, but it's more like I might say, well, I don't trust you to do this thing anymore. And therefore to support me, you can't do this thing anymore.
Right.
Like unhealthy boundaries.
Yeah. I think there is an awakening, especially in the Black community where, we've kind of looked at our parents and gone, you guys really fucked us up. Like, I'm kind of mainly getting this from, a lot of the stuff that I've seen on my Twitter and my TikTok, which is very Black focused, where there's kind of been the only term I can think of is like a coming to Jesus moment, where we're all kind of going like, I'm not going to raise my kids the way that I was raised, because we all understand that the way that we were raised was wrong. And so like, I feel that removing punitive thoughts from your mind, because that's something that I have actively been trying to work on myself, because it just makes people feel worse. Like, you don't want to make people feel bad, man. Like, especially if there are people in your life. So like, I know that there are times with my friends and family where I'm just like, I'm close to leaning on what I learned, so I'm going to walk away now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just sorry to kind of cut in there. That really spoke to me, because I'm just like, I just punitive thoughts in general, especially with people that you care about, it's so poisonous. It's so poisonous.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
There's a really good book, if you ever feel like reading more about it. It's called, it's really good for us community managers too, called We Will Not Cancel Us and Other Dreams of the Transformative Movement. It's really interesting to read, especially as a community manager, where you are constantly engaging in punitive actions because people suck sometimes, right? Where you're like, you cannot come into my space and make terrible jokes. Like, you just can't do it. And so like, you're, as a person coming from this background, like working in that space, I'm also like, yes, I hear you and I'm super supportive of this, but also you just can't make these jokes in my space. And if you argue with me, you just can't be in my space. Like, it's okay to also throw your drunks out. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Adrienne Marie Brown, if anybody else is curious about the book, I'm literally buying it right now, because this is speaking to me. Like, yeah, it's been the hardest lesson of my life to learn that you can defend your boundaries without being as toxic as the thing that is crossing your boundaries.
And good on you, like Midarn Black Halo mentioned this, but yeah, good on you for like recognizing that line and like setting that boundary with yourself, right?
Let's see. Adrienne Marie Brown, if you're looking for the We Will Not Cancel Us and Other Dreams
with two E's instead of an E.
But so sorry to get sidestepped there. It's just, that was a really good conversation, and I have to kind of bring this up because he brought it up. As a community manager, for those that don't know, I've recently taken a position as a community manager. I'm on my third week. People show up just to kind of sling poop on the walls. Like,
it's true.
You spend so much time in your own head, in your own life, that like sometimes you just see somebody post something and it just kicks the air out of you. Like, where did this come from? Why is this a thing? And not responding in anger is an exercise. So like, first off, everybody, if there's any brand, franchise, or anything that you love, show some respect to your community managers. They are out here taking an ass whooping, the likes of which you don't even know. Because it's just like, without going into too much details, there is an individual that interacts with our brand that at every like at the same time each morning complains about an NPC that's in a wheelchair. Every day, same time, just write something nasty about that NPC. And I don't understand the hate. Like, I don't understand that
it's like
level
they set
of
up scheduled posts.
I'm so sorry you have to endure that.
The first time I encountered it, it was funny because I'm like, really, guy, whatever. The second time, I'm like, okay, he's probably just mad because I deleted the comment. So going again, and then like it was the fifth time that it actually kind of affected me because I'm like, this is a person that exists. This is a person that has such an innate hatred.
Yeah.
And they walk around, breathe the same air as us. And like, if a picture of somebody in a wheelchair gets this level of vitriol, like, I couldn't help but think, like, this is somebody that's probably out there making somebody's life much harder than it needs to be. And now we've met. In most cases, I would never meet somebody like this because I don't hang around people like this. But that's kind of the unspoken part of being a community manager, is that you are going to encounter people that you work really hard to filter out of your own life.
Yeah.
Being a community manager is volunteering to encounter those people. And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a part of the job that most of us don't talk about very publicly. But it is our job to be the mediator between everyone and the brand and the company and the designers. Like, one of my key jobs is making sure the cruel things that are said aren't coming up in the designers' lives so that they can design, like, and one of the things we also don't address is that it's emotionally taxing. Like, all community managers, as my firm belief, should receive therapy. Like, my company pays for me to go to therapy, but it is absolutely mandatory because you see the worst. And when you treat those people as they treat you, in the sense where you're just like, you can't be in our space, we're blocking you, we're done. We'll get emails, right? Like, I regularly encounter emails complaining about me weekly. Like, that's just part of it. And because I'm the face of the company in that regard, I'm the one people complain about. I'm the one they have a problem with. And when I tell them they have to be polite in our spaces, I'm a terrible human. And then more complaints come in, and then I have to get my boss involved to a certain degree. But like, Mark and I, Mark is the CEO of the company I work for, to be clear, spend a lot of time discussing how we engage those spaces, because he's a mediator. He's a very community-driven human as well, and we both are, and we've both received a lot of education in that field. And we started and we were like, we're going to have a conversation with everybody. Everyone gets at least one chance to redeem themselves and be a better person and learn and grow. And then Avatar happened, and
I'm so sorry.
Avatar happened, and we had to have really big conversations because there's 80,000 backers.
Yeah.
And we had to have conversations then about, like, what does it mean? And our Discord has 7,100 people. Like, it's a lot of humans in a very small space. And so they just hit a point where it's like, we will always engage you in a conversation to let you know what you did is against our code of conduct. But the minute you argue with us, we're done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can either say, oops, my bad, or you can be like, well, I think I should be able to make P-bender jokes in a safer work forum.
No.
No, baby, no.
Sweetie pie,
Right.
Sweetie pie, honey darling.
Yeah.
The things that you must have encountered.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I can't get into them, but oh God.
I know. But
Avatar was such a time. And it still is, but And other products we've had as well certainly have certain types of people that back them. But yeah, that was a huge breaking point. But I've been a community manager for a long time. So I was like the main community manager for Breakout Gaming Convention. I was a community manager for the Gauntlet podcast. I ran Toronto Area Gamers, which was like 3,000 people in Toronto who did gaming. So like I've been doing it since I was 19. Oh, thank you. Mercedes just told me I was a good community manager. Thank you.
Oh, you're an excellent community manager.
Chat is loving you. They're definitely saying your strength is inspiring here.
Oh, it's therapy, honeys. That's therapy. And trauma and resilience. I actually did a ton of self-training in resiliency before I took the job. Not because of the job, but just because I knew I needed more resiliency in my life. I was coming out of a really abusive relationship, actually 2 of them, because poly sometimes gets weird. And yeah, I was like simultaneously being abused by 2 people. And so I did a lot of resiliency training, and that's really come in handy. And there are, I think, 5 key components of resiliency, and I built up each of those areas like it was a game. It's like I get +1 here and +1 here and +1 here. And so, I mean, if people are struggling with community stuff, I always recommend doing work on your resiliency and understanding what those factors are to make it easier for you to build them up. And the factors are hard. They're hard for a lot of people. So, yeah.
Yeah, you got to get that resiliency training, Kyrie. Lord knows I could use a little myself because, like, I do have to say the community manager community has been one that, like, it's been so warm and welcoming because I have had moments where I'm just like, y'all, I'm drowning, and like, and they've really come through. So it's just the people that are running the communities for some of your favorite things are really some of the most kind, hardworking people out there, and I cannot stress that enough. So try and cut them some slack.
Buy them a coffee.
Yeah, buy them a coffee, cut them some slack, and realize, like, you know, I think a lot of the times, especially after the panini, we can forget that there are people on the other side of the screen, and nothing on the internet really goes unnoticed. You know, it's somebody's job to notice everything on the internet, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, just like we always say on this show, empathy or fuck off. Like, if you can't say something empathetic, if you can't take the time to think like
how this might affect someone else other than you,
yeah, then take a break. Fuck off. Like, it's like, you know, it doesn't, you know, I mean, there are ways to have public discourse that are constructive rather than destructive, you know. And honestly, this is a lesson that I'm learning myself, because, like, I used to go hard on brands and stuff. Like, who hasn't had a tweet thread just kicking the shit out of Wizards? But, like, you know, but now, like, I understand, like, I can still have my beef, but, like, there are ways to communicate, like, I'm upsetty spaghetti without being an asshole. So, like, just
have your beef and eat it too.
That.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I actually have like a whole list on my computer of things I'm not allowed to talk about on Twitter, and things I am allowed to talk about, and I have to ask specific questions of myself before I post anything. Namely, like, does it fall under my do not enter or my enter categories? And if it falls under the do not enter, it can't be published. But if it falls under enter here and I still a little sketch on it, I have to talk to somebody to see, like, do you think this is a good thing to post, and what are the repercussions I'm not seeing? I also have to ask myself, is what I'm doing contributing to the internet in a productive and healthy and normative way, or is it going to hurt somebody? And who are the people it's going to hurt?
Yeah.
And am I willing to be accountable to that pain? Because if I'm not, then I shouldn't post it. Like, if I'm not willing to say, like, I'm sorry I hurt you, this truth is important, but I am sorry that it hurt you, should I be posting it? So that's part of the transformative thing, though. It's where, like, I will not engage in spaces where what I'm doing isn't transformative, right? So Twitter is not transformative.
It's really not like
it's an addiction. Like, to be clear, if you haven't read about what Twitter does to your brain, it gives you like a dopamine hit every time you post, every time someone likes it, every time someone retweets it, every time someone engages with it. And so Twitter naturally really likes divisive comments and engages them in the algorithm more so that you'll engage more. So that's why you'll see things that make you angry, because it's deliberately designed, because it knows that you're going to engage with it. And then you get that dopamine hit, and then you like do it again, and you do it again, and you engage more, and you engage more. And like, you're playing into the system when you do that. And I'm like, if you're going to have transformative experiences, you need to do them in a way where you're going to get a conversation with people. And Twitter isn't a conversation, it's an algorithm designed to promote anger and hate.
More and more of these algorithms are farming outrage. Like, I think for sure it started with Facebook, where Facebook realized like, if I show you something that you'll like, you'll click maybe 2 or 3 ads, whatever. But if I show you something that you'll hate, you're gonna comment, click, and that's how they farm engagement. Twitter is on that same bandwagon, and now it feels like TikTok's there too. And it's just,
oh gosh,
I've learned that there's actually like certain people on TikTok that will make a specific mistake in their video just to boost engagement, because they'll know that people will comment on it. Like, there was a cooking TikToker that used cashews in a recipe and called them peanuts, specifically so that people would comment, "You mean peanuts? Or you need cashews, right? You mean cashews, right?" And like, boost the engagement of their post.
That's so heartbreaking.
Like, it is a legitimate tactic that they use, is to make a tiny mistake so that people comment on it, and it boosts them up the algorithm.
That is a whole genre of TikToks, which is like people cooking things badly.
Yeah,
TikTok scares me.
It is
I like go on there to follow you folks and hear your cute TikToks, and then I'm like, I gotta go before I see something I don't want to.
It's the For You
That's how
page.
they get you. That's how they get you.
Right. And I'm like, I love doing TikToks now that I have good internet again. I'm like, oh my God, I could probably do TikToks again. And I'm like, but then I'd be on TikTok.
Then you'd be on TikTok. That's the trap.
Look, it's a slippery slope. It's like it takes one TikTok and then you're in.
Yeah.
It is the actually engagement.
Yeah, I can't do it. So like, all of that is so unhealthy, and I engage social media very specifically. And like, once in a while I slip up. I'm a highly impulsive person. I'm a traumatized person, and traumatized people are impulsive. And so like, I've worked really hard not to be impulsive on social media, and I still fuck it up once in a while. But for the most part, I try really hard not to do that, and I try really hard to hold my friends accountable when they are.
Yeah.
Like, I actually think ethical friendship is in a way doing that. Sorry, it's got very serious.
No, we're this show, we have no structure. We just go where it goes.
But yeah, so like, I try really, really hard when I engage social media to mostly like
make a choice,
talk about sex and do flirty selfies, because that's fun and my brand now, and talk about monster sex and talk about kindness and be supportive. And that's the only things I'm allowed to do on social media.
Play to find out what happens.
Like, but I think we need more of that. We need more people talking about like sex and kindness in a mature and like fun way, because we're still such a prudish society. It's really like
positivity is huge.
Like, we act like we've like progressed really far, but it's so like some of the things you see on the internet is still just very much like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, why would you even say that out loud? Like, I wish my friend Bonsai has this aluminum foil hat she puts on whenever she goes into conspiracy theory mode. I don't have that, so I'm just gonna put on this this crown. So here's my conspiracy theory, which is that I feel like there's been a major attack on sex workers, especially people working on OnlyFans, because of our prudish society and because like OnlyFans is like ultimate capitalism. Like this country has never given a fuck about capitalism. It's only given a fuck about capitalism where old white guys win. Like the fact that the people that make the most money off of things like Pornhub, RedTube, X Hamster, X and XX, I'm giving you way too many examples here. It's like it's an old white guy, and it's just like, how does that make any fucking sense?
And because you've cut out that mediator with things like OnlyFans, they feel like their bottom line is threatened, and they need to legislate against it.
Right. Yeah. It's just like if they can't monetize off of it, then it's not capitalism. It's they just like sex work is only okay if an old white guy benefits off of it. That's my conspiracy theory. Is it just the more that we have people kind of openly talking about sex and sex work and all that kind of stuff, then I think the more light we shine on this conspiracy, because I'm sick of old white guys getting paid for shit they have nothing to do with. I'm talking sex work. I'm talking the NFL. I'm talking the NBA. Like, old white guys should not make a goddamn dollar off of a dunk.
Old white guys making profit off of the toil of other people's bodies is the American and the Western way.
It's true.
It is the way of capitalism.
Yeah, I used to do sex work in my 20s, my late teens, early 20s. And even there, because like I was doing care work as well as in-person sex work, and men, like white men, found a way to insert themselves in a power dynamic that had nothing to do with them. And they were just like, no, I'm dating you, and now I would like to be involved and be in control of it. And I was like, what? I mean, I guess so, because I come from an abusive household, so this seems normal to me, but what?
You didn't get a single touchdown. You didn't get a single dunk. You ain't got a single booty. Why are you making any money?
Yeah. So, and then if you are in those spaces as well, like I was very lucky, I never got attacked that way, but like you will get exploited and you will get abused. You almost always exclusively by white men. And it's really interesting to come back to talking about sex on the internet after leaving for a while and being like, oh, nothing's changed. Great. All right, cool.
I mean, I feel like, and I'm gonna kind of be a hypocrite and backtrack just a little bit. We have made just a scotch of progress, because OnlyFans was like, and we ain't gonna have sex workers no more. Right? We let them build our brand. We let them build like our entire shit, and now fuck them. And all the sex workers at the same time was like, bet. And shit did not go well for them.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the really interesting aspects of social media, right? Is this ability to talk to companies, or at least their community managers, in mass and be like, no, guys, no.
This isn't it.
You just made me realize what a nightmare it must be for the community manager for OnlyFans.
That's one of those things where, like, once you work in community management, you can still be really mad at these companies, but you're like, I'm so sorry.
There's just this poor community manager over there.
There's a poor community manager who's just did it.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at a Kickstarter recently where they made a printing error, and I was just like, oh my God, that community manager. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for you. Do you need tea? Can I send you something? I don't support your product, but that's not the point.
Do you need a hug? I'm here to support you. I don't support your product, but I'm here to support you.
Yeah. And it's just this unifying experience where all of us have just experienced something terrible and we see something happening and we're like, oh, honey.
You can feel it in the wind. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
There's a red mood today.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. And I think like someone Mercedes mentioned like CM pay is dirt. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, not for me. I'll be real explicit here. But like yeah, at most places the pay is terrible. And that's what breaks my heart. I'm like, you're paying no money for this person to be traumatized on your behalf.
Well, Minar says, because the complaint doesn't land on the desk of the person who made the trash tier decision. It lands on the desk of the community manager.
It sure does.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny though? And it's not funny. Haha, but it's like a little funny. Well, it's like gallows humor. Is like the community manager will probably know maybe a week or two in advance that they're about to have a bad day in the next 2 weeks.
Sometimes. But like sometimes you don't think about it. Like I was in one conflict where people were so mad about something and I was like, I thought you all would have been mad that that person was a porn star. I had no idea you'd be mad that she was abused. What? When
the community gets mad at you at an angle you didn't expect.
Right. I was like, I should have saw that though. But like, man, oh man, I was just expecting you to be prudes. Huh. Bad on me. That's the part I always find interesting, are the ones that come at you from the side and you're like, okay.
That was an angle I had not expected, but now that I've encountered it, I can encounter for it next time. Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you do. And then every time something comes across your desk from your design team, you're like, I need to come through this now and tell you what will go on Reddit, what will go on TikTok, and what will go on Twitter. And I would like responses ready for all of them. Thank you.
So I have a question out of like genuine curiosity. Do you find that the communities in different platforms respond, react, or function differently than other ones? Like, do you feel like Twitter goes harder than Facebook, or does Facebook go harder than Twitter, or that kind of deal?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna backtrack slightly to be like, I wouldn't call them communities. I think a community is a group of people who want to care for and support each other. Right. And therefore Twitter is not that. And therefore Facebook is not that. I actually think the closest things we can run as communities, as community managers, are Discord spaces where we can curate and require a certain amount of buy-in from people. And I actually think Reddit kind of sits in that space too, because it is a group of people who are talking, who are engaging, who are following community norms. Whereas we talk about the game design industry as a community, and it's not. It's a group of hobbyists and industry people who are sharing a hobby, right, in a practice of design. So when I think about social media platforms, I think about them as social media platforms, not as communities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That being said, what you're referring to, like how do they respond differently? Like, yeah, the outrage time frame is different for each one. So like TikTok, and I can expect things to last for a week to 2 weeks. On Twitter, I can expect things to last about max 72 hours. Kickstarter outrage, which is its own special brand of outrage, it can be ongoing very long time because you can't stop it. Like you can't block people. Tools. Yeah, which is different for GameFound. Just so everybody knows, GameFound is letting you do that. It's important. And I'm trying to think. I don't really care about Facebook too much, honestly. Like Facebook's algorithms require you pay for people to engage. Yeah. So you don't get a lot of feedback on there. And so it's usually 24 hours, if that. Like someone will be mad. What I am seeing currently in trends are cross-platform, I don't want to say harassment, but some of it can be harassment. But cross-platform outrage. And so you'll see something leak from TikTok into Discord, from Discord onto the Kickstarter. And see Kickstarter leak into a Discord, into Reddit, into Twitter. And so you can't moderate each individual response anymore the way you used to, where you would be like, this is what we'll put on Twitter, and this is what we'll put on Facebook. This is what we'll put on Reddit, and this is how we'll do TikTok. It has to be the similar across the board. And this is something I learned actually from the Avatar Kickstarter, because there were 80,000 people on the Kickstarter and 7,000 people in the Discord. And anything I said in Discord was then copy and pasted and put onto the Kickstarter or put onto Twitter. And it was no longer engaging with my community. It was engaging with fans in a completely different way. Yeah. And so my ability to talk in the Discord changed. I couldn't be casual anymore. I couldn't just be friendly. I couldn't just talk to the community members. I had to be very aware that anything I said would be taken as Magpie's voice. And carried over onto their other platforms. And that was a really rough lesson, to be really honest.
Yeah.
Trying to be like, hey, we love that you're in our Discord and we're friends, kind of. And so I'm going to give you little tidbits that you wouldn't get otherwise, to say like, hey, thanks for being here and being in our community. That actually would provoke backlash, because people would be like, I can't believe they're telling people that in their Discord and not telling us on Kickstarter. And I was like, I was just having a conversation. Like I was
just trying to say thank you for going the extra mile and being part of the community.
Yeah, and so that was something to consider, because I did not want 81,000 people in our Discord.
Yeah. Oh God. Jesus.
So as a community manager, my job was to then correlate that data and come back with a better solution, which is that we post both of them now. Right. And that has actually limited that issue to for the most part. I still have to really watch what I say in our Discord, though, so that people don't be like, Kate said something on Discord and she didn't say it on Kickstarter. Is it the rule of law? Or people would screenshot me and share it in different Discords. And I was in like another Discord and someone shared a screenshot of me saying something, and I was like, the fuck is happening?
Yeah, the Avatar period was a rough one for Mac.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, I love it. I really love the excitement for Avatar. Yeah. I don't want to like make it seem like doom and gloom, right? Like it was so exciting. No.
Passion comes. Yeah, passion. I think passion is like any other thing where if it's refined, then if it's refined and tempered with consideration and empathy, it's a beautiful thing. It's like, especially when you got a bunch of people that are passionate about something together. But so like unrefined, just pure raw passion can create issues.
Well, I mean, as a CM, you're also like trying to remember that there's so many intersections to what you're encountering, right? Like Avatar is so special because it's international. There's people coming at it from every age group, from every experience. And so like one of the important things about your fan base and your community is to remember your experience isn't universal, and making space to make sure everyone can get on the same page.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's also not even that it is that it is international, but it's also that people are very it's a property that a lot of people have a lot of feelings about. It's very special to a lot of people.
Sure is.
Which is often reflected in the way that they interact with it.
Yeah, it's it's one of those interesting fandoms that can be identity forming, I think. Mm-hmm. And so people are like, it's not just Avatar. Like, I'm a waterbender. Like, that's who I would be. I'm like, I love that you're so excited, but I do not relate to products that way.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting to see people so invested that way and be able to say cool things like, who's your favorite Avatar? And people had really cool insights into all of them. I did not, because I was like, I only watched the TV show.
Yeah.
And then people are like, but Rangy, or Rangi, I don't know how to say her name, and I'm so sorry. I've only read it. But Kyoshi's partner, and I was like, whoa, Kyoshi's
Yeah.
gay?
Yeah, Kyoshi's gay. Hella gay.
Right? And I was like, I'm suddenly more in love with this product.
I did get dragged for not reading the books and what I played.
Honestly, I still haven't, and like I just like let my players guide the narrative there. If I was running Kyoshi era stuff, I was like, listen, if you know Kyoshi era, all the power to you. You can tell me, you can fill me in on the history. I haven't read the books. I'm just gonna say that it's not going to apply to canon here so much with that.
Yeah,
go ahead. Oh no.
No, go ahead. I want to hear your insight on it.
I was just gonna say there are very few franchises or licenses where it is so very much a part of their personality, and I think that's the goal of most of them. I mean, sadly for a while there, Harry Potter was like the strongest one, where people be like, I'm a Gryffindor, I'm a Hufflepuff. Pokemon had it with Pokemon Go for a while. I'm Mystic, I'm Valor, which was the right one. I think when you personalize it that way, like that, because it's not just a game anymore. It's like, did they represent me well? Is kind of how it becomes, and it's a whole nother level of interaction that you get to experience with fans when they have so identified with it. So yeah, you're absolutely right on that one. And screw you, Morshadi. Team Mystic is garbage. Valor is the best one all the way.
No, Morshadi is an individual of culture, much like myself. Thank you very much. Anyway.
Also, you also partake in trash.
See, I can't even remember which Pokemon team I was part of. Like, I don't even remember the color.
And also, like, even if it's not necessarily Pokemon Go, there's a whole thing about like which starter you pick.
Bulbasaur has tentacle vines. What? monster fucking?
Charmander.
Squirtle.
Everyone likes fire play.
Super Soaker.
Right?
Squirtle.
Like, I don't even need to try for that one. But also,
listen,
Pikachu,
we all know.
Violet Wands, huh?
Okay, I hate to make us take a hard left here, but I recently discovered a place called Bad Dragon.
Oh, honey.
How have they been around for so long? Like, what is...
By taking advantage of their employees.
Ooh.
They've got some really, really bad accusations against them. So if you are a monster fucker and you like Dragoncock, power to you. Etsy has lots of options for you that don't include a company that has really, really
there's a lot of good
bad
makers
accusations
that are doing those types of devices.
Wandering Bard is great. Just saying. Wandering Bard. I have a Medusa dildo from there. It's great.
I just didn't think that would be such a lucrative business model, but here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really cool as well because there are a lot of people who identify with monsters, or furries is a huge community too. That gets some almost body dysmorphia out of it too, right? And companies like that create sheaths as well, which you can put over your penis to make it look like a monster or to make it look like a wolf or whatever. So they do a lot of really interesting work around that as well that I think is really, really cool. And they have ovipositors in a lot of those places too, which if people don't know is where you insert an egg into a tube and you put eggs in your partner. It's a thing. Bugs do it. And they have those now too. So you can do a lot of things with the toys. I've learned a lot about sex toys in the last 2 years because I wrote this series last 2 years ago for Christmas about like 12 monsters, like the 12 days of Voracious, and what sex toys you should do for each of them. And so I learned so much. Yeah.
like
if anybody wasn't aware, this channel is 18 plus. So if you are under that age, please leave. I do not want to get banned from the purple site.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be fine. Like, I did not realize that the subgenre of monster fucking was as big as it is. It like, yeah.
As big as it is.
We're adults.
Yes.
Mature. Yeah, I mean, I also teach kink role playing and stuff like that at kink conventions, and do a lot of education around it. And so I tend to know a lot about the toys to a certain degree. My partner knows a ton more than I do, but yeah.
I'm starting to feel like the kink community and the TTRPG community, if the Venn diagram is just one big circle.
I mean, so you're going to talk about a group of people who want to do strange and unusual role play and get punished by a person in charge for when they're not doing it right, and you're surprised?
I didn't think about it that way.
Come on, you run PBTA games. What is PBTA if not, oh, I've done something bad? How are you going to hurt me?
And you get praised when you do the right thing, and it's a good dopamine hit.
Right? And isn't failure so interesting? Don't you kind of want to fail sometimes? Because that GM is going to do something.
TTRPGs are for people with praise and degradation kinks. You can't change my mind.
I'm learning so much.
And sometimes humiliation. Like,
sometimes
let's not
humiliation
forget.
kinks a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. Like, everybody gets a little excited when they roll a one, like, ooh, how badly did I fuck up?
What are you going to do to me? And you do a session 0 beforehand, and you get boundaries.
You set up consent and boundaries.
Safety tool.
Marshawn's like being introspective about giant PBTA.
I see you, Marshawty.
Listen, Marshawty, did you just learn something about yourself today?
Welcome.
What is this show if not a learning experience?
So we're an hour and 40 in, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions before we go on our break here.
Wait, is this the question? Someone told me you would ask me a question, and now I've been like anxious about it all night.
Got a couple.
We've got a couple of questions, but this is one of them. There is a war in the TTRPG community.
Here we go.
Between those of us who think that dice are just dice and you should roll them and be done with it, versus those of us who think that dice are forbidden candies and that they belong in our mouth for crunching. So I have to ask you, Kate, do you crunch your dice or not? Will you like put them on your mouth and you chew them, or do you think that that's disgusting and people who do that should be stopped?
You're asking me this during a pandemic?
Yeah.
It's gross.
Yes!
It was gross before the pandemic, but that is gross after the pandemic.
Stop the crunch, baby!
Don't put it in your mouth unless you want to.
There's a whole Canadian
Delicious.
PSCA about it.
Oh,
Yes! I'm so happy.
like I'm into weird shit, and I'm sorry, what?
I feel like Noir should be the one asking this question, very biased. Fuck you, Mo. I think that I was as neutral as possible. Nobody should be chewing on dice. It's gross.
Don't put dice in your don't put them in your face.
Yeah, come on.
Put them in a bag and hit them. Like hit somebody with them, but like don't put them in your face.
Exactly.
If they consent to that, of course.
And well, that's the predicator for everything. What if they had edible dice?
They do.
I don't like chocolate
They're ice
that
malt
one.
dice. And there are chocolate dice.
There are edible dice, but the thing is, the people that crunch dice say that is not crunching dice. It's crunching dice.
Because
and there's a difference.
Crunch implies that you shouldn't be able to eat it, but you do.
I just don't think you should eat things that are inedible. I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe don't put dice in your fucking mouth, you gross nasties.
Do you know how many germs would be on those dice?
You know you don't clean it. You know you don't clean it. And then I want to borrow a D6, and I got this chewed dog toy of a dice in my goddamn hands. Yeah, nasties.
Gross.
No, Marshotti, we're not going to vor the dice.
Okay, vorophilia is an entirely different conversation, though.
All right, so here's the next question. This is the question that usually gets our guests to go, "Oh, fuck you."
Game on.
You get to play with any 5 people that are alive right now. You get to choose who's GM, what system you play. Who are you picking?
And what's the game?
Okay, well, Urban Shadows is my favorite game. So I would GM Urban Shadows.
Yeah.
Who would I play with? I mean, none of these, they're all just my closest friends that aren't in the industry. So I don't know that that's a super interesting one for me to answer. Because I don't play games with many people. I don't play games very often. So I would play with Paulo, who's one of my kids who I adore. They're amazing. They also are a fabulous GM. I play with my partner Camden, who is also an amazing GM and a great game designer and a great partner. Who else would I pull into that group? And probably Jen Adcock, who wrote The Price of Coal. We just made a game with her. She's a great GM and player. Who else? Sarah Doom, actually. So yeah, she's a game designer. She wrote Bluebeard's Bride and Velvet Glove.
Okay. You got 1 seat left.
This is so much pressure.
Right?
It's who are my favorite people to game with?
This might be one of the first listed in a bit that doesn't include The Rock. I don't know why he's always so popular.
Well, he'd be funny. I don't like humor though, so I don't like playing games that are funny.
This son of a bitch trying to make me
I don't.
laugh.
I'm so serious. Literally, my mom the other day, I said something. She's like, "Are you making a joke?" And I was like, "Have you ever known me to make a joke?" And she's like, "That's fair."
Valid.
The 5th person. It might be Mark Truman. He's so good to game with.
Yeah.
It's a good story. Actually, Miguel. It would be Miguel.
Ooh.
Angelus.
Sorry, Mark. You lost your spot, bro.
Yeah. Miguel's so interesting to game with. He has such a unique mind. And he's a graphic designer, right? He did all of the graphic design for Urban Shadows and Avatar and everything we put out. Zombie World.
You just sparked this one's interest. This is another graphic designer.
Yeah, Miguel's brilliant. He also did One Child's Heart for Camden and I, and he did Price of Coal. If you can ever he's so busy, but fuck, is he brilliant. And I played Urban Shadows with him recently, and it was so good. So
hell yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And
that's my table.
Here is our very last question before we go to break. You become God Emperor of the TTRPG community for one day.
Yeah,
that means that you snap your fingers and a company could disappear. You snap your fingers and another company's net worth goes up by 10%.
Takes that company's place.
Yes, you can do whatever you want within this space, but you have one day to do it. What do you do?
My answer is so fucking salty. I could destroy the industry by removing every single person who's an abuser. Thus, destroying almost every company.
It's crazy. I mean, you're not wrong, which is sad. It feels like every day there's a new purging Oh, like
There's a new main character.
yeah.
So that's my salty answer.
I don't think that. I think that's brilliant.
And my other answer would be I would have an inpouring of income to create equitable pay programs. I would increase emerging designer mentorship programs to help people get a handle on the publishing process. And I would pay for therapy for everybody. And start training people in normative and healthy community behaviors.
Tear it all down, then you build it back up.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All in a day.
All in a day. Let's do it.
I think this might have been the most thorough and most complete and best answer to this question.
Thought about it a lot, Noir.
Oh my God.
How do I break it all community down? I've thought a lot about it, and those are my answers.
Yeah, that would fucking do it.
Retire the question.
I think we might need to. That is the best. That is the best answer we've got. Like we've had a lot of good ones, but like I just removing all the abusers. I feel like that's such a monumental
power
move.
Shift.
Like now it's a little depressing because it's just like that would make so many spaces so much better.
Don't think about it too hard. It gets too sad.
But yeah.
And like cancel their contracts and like let publishers release them without lawsuits. You know what I mean? Like I would be like, because I know a lot of publishers who are stuck in shitty contracts because they signed before a person was outed, and I'm like, they don't have much recourse legally, and so.
Oh.
The RPG God Empress that we needed.
I would do so many things if I had that much power. It'd be great. I need a lot of money though. Like the key is seriously money.
Well, that's what you do is you siphon the funds from like the biggest abuse companies, and then you fund it towards everybody else.
Well, I mean,
welcome in, Raiders. Good to see you.
Welcome, Raiders. Here's the depressing thought, though. Like, here's the really just the most depressing thought. If you took the salary of all the abusers and just created a fund to fund the rest of your answer, it could probably be done.
Probably.
But there's just no.
Because you're going to give everyone equitable pay, right? And I mean for the rest of their lives.
Well, yeah.
Not for like a day.
Then we would have to remove the abusers from everywhere.
Let's do the video game industry while we're at it, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, we're good.
All the money. It's right there. It's fine.
The video game, I don't even want to. I've only had a few interactions with the video game space, and it is. Fool boy.
In it just.
Fool boy. Oh, it's bad, y'all.
How many people with anime avies are in your mentions right now, Noir? Here's why I'm never comfortable. I have been in a room with only guys, and I've heard how they talk. So I can only imagine what a room full of white guys sounds like. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, so there aren't femmes here, so this is how you're talking about femmes. If the last black guy leaves here, how do you talk about us? And I feel like they don't make that connection. Like that we picked up on that. And as someone who has been in the room of only guys as like the token girl is not good.
It's really
I love it. It's my favorite.
It's bad. Bad.
It's very upsetting. Yeah, we need a major purge in all of our entertainment, just in general.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm white and cis passing, and I've been in that room. I can only imagine what you've heard. It's there's a lot of ugly in a lot of spaces. We need a purge.
On that note, are we gonna go on break? Welcome in raiders from our stream team partners over at Rolling Together. We're gonna go take a quick 10-minute break so that we can be human. But stick around. We are gonna get into the dark roast portion of our show, and we'll see you soon. 2, 1, and we're back.
Hey, we've returned, and we're still alive.
Yes, we survived.
Welcome to the second half, which is our dark roast, where we usually talk about more serious stuff, but that never really actually happens.
How do we get more serious? I'm just curious.
I have no idea. But special thanks to AJ or Husha Kid, who created that amazing highlight video with the best of morning ritual. You're incredible, and we love you, and good job.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be posting that everywhere because I love that video.
Hell yeah. I'll send you a link to the drive.
Oh, thank you. But we are back with our wonderful guest, Kate, here. And so I kind of wanted to jump in on you, like the history of you. Like, how did you get started being a community manager? Because you said that you started when you were about 19, I believe, if I recall correctly. Like, how does one like stumble into this very particular field?
My brain just died at that thought. Just a spoiler for people who don't already know, I have long COVID, so sometimes my brain goes on weird journeys. So if I'm a little tangenty, that's why. Do drop me back. Okay. I began. I moved to Toronto when I was 18, I think, 17, 18, and got involved with the local gaming community there. And I'm a publicly organized individual. Like, my personal life is a little bit all over the place, but like, I'm so good at organizing events. I'm super organized when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so I joined a local gaming community that was all people about at least 10 years, if not 20 years older than I am, and all white dudes, who just happened to be lovely people. I got very lucky. And because I was willing to organize things, I immediately got put into the role of organizer. And when you become the organizer, so we were about 20, 30 people at that point. And when you start organizing right away, you immediately kind of become an authority figure. And from there, we started running games at Fan Expo Canada and Toronto Area Gamers, which was like the York Area D&D club at the time, became Toronto Area Gamers and grew to about 3,000 people. And I started at 19 organizing those events. And so I've been the face of a large gaming community since I was a kid. Let's be real. And from there, we organized games, obviously, for Fan Expo Canada. And then a local group of dudes wanted us to help find them GMs for Breakout Gaming Convention. And we ended up on the admin team because they needed help, which eventually my role at Breakout became running all of the con except for the securing the hotel and money part. I did everything else. And it was the largest tabletop gaming convention in Canada. It still is, technically speaking. I just am not part of them anymore.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And I went to Metatopia one year with my game Crossroads and met Jason Cordova, who's the person behind the Gauntlet podcast community. And we became besties pretty quickly, really, really quickly. We bonded really quickly. And he obviously brought me onto the Gauntlet, and I was on the podcast for a while, but I was mostly a community manager there until that exploded. And then that's a whole drama thing, but I'm not there anymore. And that was also where I met Mark Diaz-Truman, who played my game Crossroads. And so they brought me on to Magpie to do Crossroads as an ash can. And during that time, they found out they really liked working with me. And so I had all this convention experience, and Mark's like, will you run games at Gen Con for us? Because we're terrible at that. And I said yes. And then they hired me as a community manager at the beginning of the pandemic. So that's how that happened.
So you've kind of got international community management experience in a way. Do you find that the American audience differs greatly from the Canadian audience, or is it kind of like the same?
There are some similarities between our two cultures. I mean, we share a lot of lifeblood, and I'm from a border town. Like, I live currently near Sarnia, which is across the pond, like across the river, actually, from Port Huron, Michigan. And border towns share a lot of lifeblood with American culture. Toronto is its own subculture of people. They are unique. I really like Toronto in so many ways, but they are very different. I think Canadians have a deeper sense of social responsibility, kind of like they're less individualistic.
Right.
Americans are friendlier, which is really lovely. Canadians are passive aggressive though. So like their conflict management skills are actually really passive aggressive. And so communities in gaming in Canada are more likely to have a lot of backroom gossip and nothing actually gets done because no one's willing to have a conflict. Communities in America are more likely to have direct conflicts, but a lot of them will come out of the experience of individuality. Like, I'm allowed to do this because it's my personal right and I'm an individual and my opinion matters. Which leads to its own conflicts of like, yeah, but it's not for the common good. Like, it's not good for our community. And they're like, yeah, but freedom.
But it's good for me.
but fuck the community.
Yeah.
So America.
Those are the two challenges I've found with it. And then you have people from other communities, other cultures internationally who come in with their own community norms as well.
Okay.
And so the goal is always to try to see where they struggle and help them there if we can, and where we struggle and have them help us, right? It should be a communal effort to have that understanding. But overall, I prefer direct conflict now over the Canadian habit of being like...
Of not saying anything and then chat and then craft talking behind the scenes and DMs.
I hate it so much.
I'm guilty.
It's a Canadian thing.
Our lovely Bo here goes, wait, I was distracted. Is Kate a fellow Ontarian?
I am. So I'm from a place called Wilkesport, Ontario, which is a population of under 500, including the surrounding farms. I live on 100 acres of bush, which city folk call forest. But I lived in Toronto for about 20 years. So almost all of my adult life. Up until the pandemic.
Why do all my favorite people end up being Canadian? I don't understand.
Canadian or ex-Mormons?
Really? That's... Canadians and ex-Mormons are my favorite people. I don't understand how this happened.
We all have our own special small town trauma.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've always been in Canada. I thought, I don't know why, but I thought you were originally from the States and then you moved to Canada.
No, I mean, I've modified my language a lot. I used to work for an American company when I was in my early 20s as well, and I had to like pretend to be American essentially. I was booking hotels for Marriott hotels in the Baltimore Mid-Atlantic region, and they thought they were directly calling the hotel, but they were calling a call center in Sarnia. And I would be talking, and eventually they'd be like, wait, where are you from? And I'd be like, I'm from Canada. And they would be like, you fooled me with your American accent.
Because you didn't hear me say several words.
Yeah, like I say a lot. So if you hang out with me, you'll see me be like, oh, like, what a weird weather today, huh? Or like, oh, hey, how you doing today, eh? Like, I do say a lot.
Yeah. The occasional A slips out with Noir, and he loses it every single time with me.
It's great.
It's fucking thing.
Or Bud.
I knew you were going to bring it up.
I say giver, which apparently
Giver.
is very regional.
Giver is pretty regional.
Which means get her done. Like, you're like, oh, can I do this thing? You're like, oh, yeah, giver. Right?
That's okay.
Like give her the gas, but it's like just shortened to giver.
There's a couple, like I started speaking Canadian last night when we were hanging out. So I just
the drunker Anita gets, the more Canadian she becomes.
So I'm gonna go down over to I'm gonna pop over and go on a quick Tim's run. Do you want anything? Maybe I'll get you a double. It's just catty corner from the Mac, so I can always pop in there just a little bit too.
I don't know. What
and then you have to go. Do you want anything, eh?
Can I get you anything? You want anything?
Are you sure you don't want anything?
Are you sure?
Oh, sorry.
I can get you a 10-pack of Timbits.
You keep saying that, and I still don't know what that means.
Timbits are donut holes. Tim's is Tim Hortons, which is the coffee chain. Yeah, they're munchkins or they're donut holes. They're called Timbits at Tim Hortons.
Which is named after the American hockey star Tim Horton,
who started the franchise because he was so hungover after every hockey game. He just wanted a place that he could hang out and have coffee and not be bothered by his wife.
Oh, my Gio comes in here going, I'll take the triple if you're going.
Why do you even like coffee though? If you like a triple.
Sure.
Wait a second. Are you Canadian like too, bro? No, Flurman way. I like
sugar. You like sugar. Yeah, you do.
Sorry, folks. This isn't the dark roast. This is the Canadian roast.
This is the Canadian edition.
Oh, but that is kind of amazing. Like you naturally fell into what I feel like is kind of like your calling. Like you're a really good community manager. Like everybody can see that. Like you've dealt with fires. You've always been welcoming. Like I'm kind of curious. Like, what do you want your next steps to be? Like if you could plot out the career 20 years from now, like where do you? I know, right? I'm such an asshole for this question, but
I'd be like ready to retire in 20. Like I'm 37, 57. 20 years.
I literally thought you were much younger than that. Like I had no idea.
Hey, Noir, where do you see yourself in 5 years? More Shadi wants to know.
No, I think they were just mocking me for this question, but it's like I honestly feel like you have slayed the shit out of community management. Like you're just amazing at it. Like I'm just like I think this question comes because I've kind of tripped, stumbled, fumbled, and bumbled my way into where I am now. I'm always kind of in awe of people who slay at what they do. It may not seem like it from your perspective, but from like outside looking in, it's like, boom, you had your roadmap, you just knocked it out of the park each step along the way, and it's very admirable. And I'm just like, what lands will Kate conquer next? Like I think that's where my mind is with this question.
I mean, my job is changing at Magpie, and so I'm growing in that regard. But before I was a full-time community manager, I was a massage therapist, a doula, which is someone who assists in birth. I was also a trauma-focused life coach and a transformative justice facilitator. So I'm in a herbalism course right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'm just trying to do a course. I love education. I love learning. So I'm always in school. Like last year I did my certificate in graphic design and layout. And this year it's herbalism as well as social media marketing, likely from Duke University. So social media is probably where I'm going next. for learning. I really love the idea of marketing. I find it really fascinating. And I love learning. So I'm always learning something. Everything I read is for the sake of learning. Most of the things I watch are for the sake of learning. I'm always just engaging. Long COVID has really challenged that for me. So I'm trying to reclaim that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not good at long-term planning. When I was a kid, so I was like 14, my dad died. And I think that really impacted my ability to foresee the future and long-term, because things can change so quickly. And the last 4 months have really proven that as well. Things have really shifted in my private life, and it's been very challenging, and it will continue to be challenging. And long COVID too, right? Like, do I have brain damage forever? Or just now, and what can be done about it? And the answer is really not a lot. So it provides a lot of challenges. I think a lot of the long term, more so of like, where do I want to live in 5 years? Can I afford a house in 5 years? Like, I know in the short term, I want to get married. My partner and I are planning on getting married and living together, probably in Buffalo. So moving to America, that's weird, which means I'm going to be with Magpie for the next, right? I'm sure you get that. For the next 2-3 years, I'll be with Magpie, and I'm going to be moving into social media marketing and community management, and seeing how I do with that. And we have a bunch of new initiatives coming out at Magpie that I've been working on quietly behind the scenes, getting ready to launch. And a lot of that kind of stuff. I don't know that I would stay in gaming forever. Gaming's a really toxic industry to be part of. Any arts community, like arts industry is though. So it's not just gaming, it's just creative industries. I don't know though where I'm gonna end up in 20 years. I don't know. That's a big question.
That was a really good answer though for a fuck ass question like that. Like, not gonna lie to you, that was like, as soon as I asked it, I'm like, oof. If somebody asked me that, I'd fucking freeze. So
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I mean, I think if in 20 years, I'm still going to be learning. I'm still going to be challenging myself to do new things, and getting good at them or getting okay at them.
Yeah.
You know, I hope I'm still learning in 20 years. I can't imagine not learning. So
now I have to ask, with your thoughts on moving to America, is that an exciting thing? Is that kind of terrifying?
There are so many things I love about America, and there are so many things that I'm like, what the ever loving fuck are you doing? Healthcare is a huge fear.
I was just about to be like, leaving that sweet healthcare behind. Oh.
Yeah, like Magpie has offered, obviously, to give me healthcare when I move to America, and that's really important to me. Magpie's been super, super supportive of me and my plans, and of my partner and I. So they've offered to obviously help make sure that I feel secure, whether I stay in Canada or move to America. They really want me to move to Albuquerque. I just can't see that happening. But they
is that
really
where Magpie is?
They are. They're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, which is where I was in January. So yeah, I mean, the desert tried to murder me.
It tried with me too in Arizona.
Right.
It didn't take.
I hate it. I'm not in like high elevation, man. Oh man. Like, It is gorgeous. Like, the landscape is stunning in New Mexico. I loved the landscape. It was really cool to drive through Oklahoma, because if anyone's read my Ashcan of Crossroads, it takes place mostly in Oklahoma. It's kind of in the Dust Bowl of America during the Depression. And like, Oklahoma lost all of its trees, and they had to replant like 220 million trees after the Depression. And so all of the growth there is same, right?
Yeah,
other than
it's
the
kind
new
of like
growth.
how Saskatchewan, any of the trees that are planted there were all planted when settlers arrived, because it was prairies.
I'm laughing because it's like, between the two of you and Bo, I'm like, is the desert Canadian's weakness?
Yes. Elevation also for me.
I'm from the mountains, so not so much for me. But I went on a hike in one of the deserts in Saskatchewan. There's a provincial park that is like literal desert, and I went out on a hike and it tried to murder me.
Oh.
They actually have water caches out there to make sure that you do not die of dehydration.
Wow. I mean, I'm lucky I had a Camden who made sure I didn't die. But...
Because any of the actual, like, there's like a couple creeks, but all of them were like alkali. So like you couldn't drink any of the water from the creeks. So you had to like bring in your own.
Wow. Yeah.
I think it was like Badlands, one of the Badlands provincial parks.
That makes sense.
All right. Yeah. So when Canada inevitably decides to invade America, everybody run to Arizona.
We already did that and won. So we don't need to do it again.
I mean, do you want us to burn down your White House again? We can do it.
Wait, hold on. Y'all talking real spicy right now.
This is the War of 1812 that every Canadian knows about, and every American's like, wait, what?
What?
I thought that was the British.
We were British.
We were British.
We kind of still are. Don't look at us.
Yeah, y'all got Queen on your money, weirdos. You Commonwealth.
Better than dead
Commonwealth trash.
Yeah, Commonwealth trash.
Am I about to pick a fight with all Canada? I just might.
I mean, we already have Australia and Liam O'Brien on there. We'll just add Canada to the list.
But seriously, though, if Canada did decide to invade, as long as we got that sweet health care, I don't care. I don't think I'd mind.
Right? So, I mean, long term, the plan is, I think, Canada, but short term might be Buffalo.
Oh, that'd be cool though. Like that's a hot spot. Just New York is a hot spot of TTRPG goodness, and New York is just so bad, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't play games though.
True.
That's true.
I'm working on it. Like, Camden makes sure I play games, and we're gonna play test a game later. So I do play testing, but I don't have a lot of casual time for gaming. So, and when I do, I'm always like, I'm just gonna play the same game again because I just fucking love Urban Shadows, or I just really love Fall of Magic. Like, I will play Fall of Magic until
Urban Shadows is so goddamn good.
I love Urban Shadows.
So goddamn good. Like, I that's the one Kickstarter I look at every day. Just like,
I'm sorry.
Soon it'll. Oh no.
I look at it every day too, Noir. And I'm just like, oh.
I felt that. Like, I think if there's one thing that I would love to communicate with our audience and just everybody in general, is just that when you opt into a Kickstarter, opt in with patience. It is delayed gratification. Don't.
I had to send a message to someone from one of the Kickstarters that I backed the other day, and I still haven't heard back. And I'm like, the tracking says that the shipping label was created back in January, and I haven't received it.
I mean,
and
the world.
I also work in shipping, in case no one knows. I handle all of our customer service problems in Magpie.
This is for a tarot deck, and I'm just like, I'm gonna leave the most polite, courteous, because I know it's just you running this, so we're gonna be kind. It's like, if you give me any updates, that would be lovely. Thank you.
I also host for a show, Table Takes, where we do TTRPG news, and there was a company who they had a bit of a printing snafu with their Kickstarter.
Is this one from like last few days? Just
yeah.
Oh my god! My heart goes out.
We reported on it, and like, just the long and short of it is there was a layout error. So a couple, like 4 pages.
Like an older version of the PDF was sent to the printer.
So 4 pages are basically foobarred in about 20,000 books, but they give you the option to like have those as a PDF or to print them on your own or to whatever. Everything else in the book is fine. And the standard edition wasn't supposed to come with a ribbon, but it has a ribbon. So it's like, look, we tried to fix it this, like we give you the pages as a PDF. You get this extra little bonus of the standard book that you weren't supposed to get. Everybody kind of be chill. And like, if you look at the comments, it's just like a torch and pitchfork. And I'm just like,
nobody's chill in those comments.
Y'all gotta relax. Y'all gotta relax. You gotta be cool. You really have to understand that the world is on fire right now. Like, shipping for everybody sucks. Like, shipping and printing is fucked for everybody. And it is hard to kind of explain that to your communities because everybody's just like, I paid the Kickstarter, I want it now. Like, there are Kickstarters that like deserve some of the hate that they get, where people promise things and just never deliver. Not gonna say any names, but there was a big one like a year or two ago that just kind of blew up in everybody's face. Like, that shit I understand, but when a company is clearly trying to make right, just chill a little bit. Like, just a modicum of chill. Just a scooch of chill.
Just a dash of chill.
Yeah, it's across the board. I mean, it's one thing you see a lot of community managers talk about behind closed doors too. It's just like, how do we handle backers who are just furious?
Or how do we handle backers that back at $1 literally just to complain?
Oh yeah, we refund those people. That's my advice to everyone. This is not Magpie. This is just a me thing because I do a lot of Kickstarter consultation. Someone backs your project for $1. The minute their funding goes through, just so they can harass you, refund them.
So that way,
fire your backers.
Yeah,
fire people.
That much.
You don't need $20 that much either. Actually, to be really honest, like I get small indie creators, and it's rough when you're like that. $50 feels really important, but is $50 worth your mental health? Fire your backers that suck.
Yeah, I Kickstarter is such a Kickstarter could be beautiful if humans weren't humans. It really is like the drama attached to Kickstarters. It's like, especially if you get to see one being created, because the process of creating a Kickstarter starts well before the Kickstarter happens.
It does if you know what you're doing. I get brought on a lot to projects that like, we would like to go live in 4 weeks. And I'm like, oh yeah. Okay, so how many podcasters have you talked to? And they're like, what? Oh, maybe you should delay.
not gonna go there. I got.
It's a common mistake though. Like, I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, actually. This is just a common mistake I see over and over again as a Kickstarter consultant. It's like, if you know what you're doing, you start almost a year out.
Yeah. I feel like one of the common mistakes that I've seen with Kickstarters is that the people that head them have such a high, like, have such an elevated sense of what they're making that they think just the mere presence of their project warrants attention, if that makes sense. Where it's just like, you have to understand, the Kickstarter is your introduction to the community. Like, nobody knows you. You gotta earn their attention. Yeah. But I'm me, so obviously, baby, they gonna come. Like, no.
Yeah.
I think you have to approach it from a place of like humbling yourself and humbling your standards.
Well, and I think marketing is a huge part of that, Absolutely. But also budgeting. Budgeting is a huge, huge part of that. And people, there's so many shenanigans that happen with Kickstarter budgeting that are just like bad practices from history as well as modern practices that people assume Twitter equals money. Like there's like recent data that like, yes, if you advertise on Twitter, you are twice as likely to hit your numbers as if you didn't. But overall, like your return on investment is not very high for Twitter, but everyone's like, I'm famous on Twitter, and so my project will fund. And that is a mix of luck, planning, and marketing. That is not just that you're popular on Twitter and it's ergo going to mean a guaranteed hit. Yeah. And you have to understand, even a guaranteed hit is going to be $20,000 to $30,000, and your budget for your game is probably going to be $16,000 to $20,000 to print it.
Yeah,
right.
I can contest that popularity on Twitter does not equal dollars.
Imagine if it did that. Wouldn't the world be much better?
Oh my God, I'd be so happy.
Right. But
oh God,
yeah.
But no, I think I've seen a lot of people come into this industry with like hopes and dreams, but also ego, and then just get eaten alive. Like ego can really lead to making some stupid fuck ups, and it's hard to tell somebody with a lot of ego that. It's the thing. It's just like, hey, chill. earn your community's respect. I don't know. Maybe this is still me being fresh into my position, but I truly do feel like communities respond very well to them being treated with respect, if that makes sense.
I think that's tricky. I hear you. I don't think you're wrong, to be clear. I think everyone likes when they get treated with respect. I think there's a fine line to walk with companies and your fan base where there's a difference between respecting what people are saying and also respecting your own time and energy.
Right.
And so I think the issue is everyone wants to be treated like their voice matters.
Right.
And sometimes there's so many people that you can't treat every individual with as much mattering as they would like. And that sucks, you know?
Right.
It's the part that I've always found really difficult in community management, where it's actually grassroots communities where you're trying to make sure every voice feels heard. But at the end of the day, you can't provide that space for more than a few people.
Yeah.
And
because
so that
you
becomes
only have
really
so much
difficult.
emotional bandwidth as someone who's
right.
Who is attempting to like lead, or not necessarily lead, but help guide a community.
Yeah. And ultimately, CMs end up always making the hard decisions about who you engage with and who you don't, and doing their best.
Yeah, I think I'm speaking. I'm trying to find words, but my brain is SpaghettiOs. I think. I'm speaking specifically on not just treating your audience like they're dollar signs. That's what I've seen a few times that have led to a lot of stumbles. Like, oh, of course they'll give us their money if we do this, and this, and it's just like, well, hold on. Because they're not just going to show up because this name is there. Yeah.
I think I've seen a lot of the corporatization of companies a little bit, where it becomes less personal. It becomes more corporate speak.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen the industry respond really negatively to that.
Yeah.
So I think overall, when it comes to community management and engaging your audience, you actually want to treat it like you're engaging an actual community, even if it's not an actual community. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's a fan base and an industry base and that kind of stuff. Like,
yeah,
the corporate speak of it all is gets in the way. People don't feel connected to that. They feel like dollar signs then.
Yeah. As soon as somebody says synergy, I start slapping people in the room. But speaking of slapping people in the room, we have one last segment that we do on this show that we ask every guest, which is, if you've been in the TTRPG community long enough, you have probably had the displeasure of being at a table with a that guy. A that guy is somebody at the table who is a black hole of fun, who, if they were yeeted into the sun, your experience in the room would increase tenfold. So, Kate, have you had the experience of playing a game with a that guy?
Many times. I've been running public-facing games since I was 18 at conventions. I've seen GMs take swing, like a player take a swing at a woman GM because she said no to what he wanted to do in the game.
What?
I've got war stories, Noir.
I'm sorry.
Kate's been in the trenches.
Card in front of my face and slam it down on the table.
Usually, we let the guests pick what that story they want to give.
I have had someone pick up an X card and like fold it in half.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I want to need to hear that story.
I think my most I think funny and bad. I'm not gonna go into the violent ones. Just the funny and bad one. I was playing Serenity, like the Firefly RPG.
Mm-hmm.
And my character, and the GM is the problem here too, and my character was a hot lesbian, and that was her complication. Mm-hmm. Like her character problem. And I was like, can you explain this to me? And he was like, yeah, you like to hit on women at their own time. I was like, what? Oh, okay. But wait, my story gets better. My friend was playing like the River character, like the mentally unstable, but because she's been traumatized character who had like this tinfoil outfit on where pieces just conveniently fell off sometimes. And every woman in the game was hot and thin and pretty. And so at one point when we're in the mechanic area to get our ship fixed, and the GM has yet again described the women in this game as scantily clad and hot. I'm like, aren't they getting burned? They're mechanics. And he's like, fine, they're fat and ugly. I'm like, well, that escalated quickly. And so my friends and I are all playing this game. And this is before we ran games at Fan Expo Canada. And it's the reason we now ran games at Fan Expo Canada. So we're playing this game of hot lesbians that are all messy and
hot space
their
lesbians.
Clothes falling off. Yeah. And we get to this part where we're on the ship that we're like at the conclusion. And like, we have tried to die, to be clear. We've cheated at cards in a club. We have started fights. We've done everything we could so that this GM would murder our characters. Why none of us got off and left is a whole other social issue that has to do with being Canadian. But
it's politeness at a certain point.
This is before safety tools existed. And so we're finally in this one part and we're like, we're just gonna head to the bridge and finish the story. We're fucking done. And the GM's like, well, the hallway just keeps getting longer. And we're like, what? What do you mean the hallway? This is science. Of the science fiction part. He's like, yeah, the hallway just keeps getting longer. And we're like, Jesus fucking Christ. All right. So we're going to climb into the ceiling and try to go through the air ducts. And he's like, okay, you do that. And you see Reavers coming towards you. And we're like, all right, Reavers, will they kill us? And he's like, well, yeah, they'll kill you. And we're like, do we just stand here and get eaten by the Reavers? But we decide not to, and we climb up into the fucking ceiling. And the Alliance is also looking for us. So the Alliance comes in down the hall, and the Reavers come down the hall, and we're like, yes, we've tricked them. They're going to get into a fight, and we'll win. And he's like, everyone stops in the middle of the hall, and the Reavers start making a deal with the Alliance, and they start talking. And I'm just like, I don't know why that was the final straw, but that was it. And I was like, I'm done. I gotta go. I'm sorry. This game has been too long. I gotta go. So that was the only final game I ever played of Serenity. And I was GMing the campaign of it. I knew the system very well. So like I knew he was not doing what he was supposed to.
Wouldn't even let you die.
Nope. No. And I was just like, I can't. Though the Reavers made it. I'm done. That's my line.
The Reavers
You've
that
broken
are
canon too much.
the glass cannon. I think that's what we're gonna call that one. CANON.
So
I'm flabbergasted. Like,
stupefied.
The engineers are scantily clad. Aren't they going to get burned? Why is their fat and ugly? Like, that still doesn't solve the problem.
Right. And like, not only that, but he says it at this table where 3 of the women are fat, including myself. I'm just like, cool. I mean,
Only surprised there wasn't a hot, thin Reaver lady.
I don't even, that might have actually been a thing at that point. I think I was just so beyond what was happening. And like, we were all just like, why didn't we just leave? Like, why did we sit here and play with this person for 4 hours? And it was immediately after that, we were like, hey, head of gaming at Fan Expo, we run Toronto area gamers and we would like to take over because your GMs are offensive and bad.
Yeah.
So. Like, I don't even, wow. that's wow. I mean, I recently had an experience with the GM of that caliber, and it's just, it's not fun. It's not fun. Oof.
So that was my Serenity story.
Help, Anita. I can't.
No, I gave you the name of. I'm calling this one the glass cannon.
No, I
shattered the narrative.
You gotta take the lead. That one took me out. That's the Reavers in the Alliance.
Right? Made a deal.
That's not
how it works.
Right. I can put up with everything but that cannon break. And I was just like, what? No.
Done. Wash my hands of this.
So
no, I was running a game for one of the local, like, really small sort of convention, like local gaming conventions here, and there was someone came to my table and like I handed out the X cards like you do. It's like, okay, these are X cards, this is how they work, and like if at any time like something in the narrative makes you feel uncomfortable, like you can just tap it and like we'll stop play, we'll figure out what the problem is as few questions as possible, and then we'll either like rewind it to a point where you're comfortable, or we'll just completely nix the scene. Or we can fade to black instantly. It's all up to you. One of the guys at the table literally took the X card and folded it up and crumpled it up and put it back on the table.
Wow! And then were you like, "Thanks for coming, but you can't play," because that's what I would have done.
It's the Canadian thing again. I just went through it with
less.
It's too polite.
Yeah.
Too polite.
This is those times where I'm like, we just need to be a little more American.
Yeah. That's one of those times like, okay,
no, here's
well, if you aren't willing to adhere to the safety rules or to the code of conduct, you can just get...
Yeah. When I was running Breakout, I make GM handbooks for everything. Anyone who's GM'd for Magpie also knows you get a handbook with everything. And that includes all of our conventions, all of our community play days. And like at Breakout, I made a handbook and you were required to read it. And when people came into the con to sign in as a GM, I'd be like, great, can you tell me about your safety tools you're using? And they would have to tell me and explain them to me. Yeah. Otherwise, they couldn't GM.
I had to do that when I was running Crossroads for you over at Gen Con back in 2018.
Right. Like, you need to come in and tell me you know a safety tool.
It's like, yeah, I've got, we're going to do lines and veils. I'm handing everybody cards. They can write them down, and then I'll just write them down as like a complete list, and we'll go from there. And we'll just make sure we use XNO at the table. Yeah. You're like, okay. Great. Have fun.
You're great. You came
Here's
in
your
last
table.
minute too and saved my butt. Like, I will forever adore you for that too. To be like, I will totally run this really terrible game
that I have no
like,
idea how to
upsetting.
run. I did 2 beta tests. I did an alpha and I did a beta test of that game to get the rules down for it, and then I ran it at the con. I ran Crossroads twice before I ran it at Gen Con.
I mean, you did a great job.
And it's my favorite game.
Also, kudos. Aw, thank you.
Like I said, it still has, like, to date, still has my favorite RP moment out of any game that I've ever run.
What happened?
So we had a geek, a dogface, a seer, and a snake charmer. The dogface was like my quietest player at the table, and like wouldn't speak above this. Oh, like just so quiet, and like so like just timid and like really like in a shell. And I was like trying to walk them through it, and they were what ended up happening is they came to a spot in the Dust Bowl where it was actually lush and beautiful, but it turns out the entire town had made a deal with basically 2 entities, one entity of abundance and another one of the antithesis of that. So all the children were gone. There were no children in this town, but it was beautiful and lush and green. But the dog face had to go out to get, because the geeks thing is like they eat things that they're not supposed to eat, or it does have heavy content warning for like animal abuse. But the dog face went out because that was like the connection that they made, was like the dog face would get the things that the geek needed to sustain themselves. And the dog face managed to catch a couple like gophers, but the prize was this pheasant that like was just this beautiful bird, and they're holding this bird in their hand in like the middle of this dark empty field that is just lush and green and beautiful, and the stars are out. And I said, you have other things that you can give the geek, but this is the true prize. What do you do? And they looked at me and they said, I take a single feather from the pheasant. I tuck it into my breast pocket, and I let it go out into the cold night air. And it was just like you're standing in this serenely beautiful place. You let go of the bird and you hear the fluttering of wings as it disappears into the night. You have other things, but now you have something close to your heart that's warm. And you walk away. And it was like, just like this beautiful little roleplay moment from the quietest character at the table. And it was just lovely that I was able to like let them like have that moment. That's still like my top. That's still like my top roleplay moment in any game.
So good, so good. Yeah, I mean Crossroads is such a time.
Crossroads is a good game. I like it. I like it a lot.
I'm gonna have to play that one.
It's a lot. It's a game. I mean, I wrote all of my personal lines into it, like, which is stupid. Don't do that.
It's a heavy game. It is not a light game.
Yeah. It's got a lot going on.
But you're going to be coming out with the I think we talked briefly about it when I was running it, is that you were coming out with like the revised edition of that Ashcan sometime. It's probably a long-term thing, I'm sure.
If we do anything with it, it would be a full version of the game, because an Ashcan is just a preview, right? Yeah. It's hard because when I wrote that game, I have very different feelings about community than I do now, and Crossroads is a game about community. And I don't know that it needs a full game. I mean, I'm working on a lot of games, but none of them right now are Crossroads. I'm working on a game about soulmates, like people who are intrinsically attached to each other. And so it's a game that sits on top of games. So you play Urban Shadows, and you're all soulmates, and you get born into your Urban Shadows body, and you play out your dramas as well as.
Is this kind of like a Sense8 type deal?
I haven't seen Sense8, so maybe.
Okay.
And then your cycle ends, and you can finish your game of Urban Shadows, and then you can go play Apocalypse World and bring your soulmates back. So they follow you from game to game, and you're
that's so cool. Sick.
Cosmically linked. And so that's what I'm really working on right now for my project. And then Camden and I are working on a new system for our games, and so that's what we're gonna work on today.
I am so excited.
I am super excited. I mean, it's a really interesting approach. I think we're using playing cards because we both really love playing cards versus dice, and it's much more easy to grab like a deck of cards from a variety store than dice. But and I think the first one we do with that will probably be Noir, and then it'll be a Noir game, not Noir yourself, but
not a game about Noir.
I'll see myself out.
I do like you. But, and then Voracious will probably be on that system as well.
I cannot wait for Voracious. The more we talked about it earlier, the more hype that I got for it. We are coming up at the end of our time here. I want to make sure you have plenty of time to work on these games so we can get our hands on them. So with that being said, I'm just gonna land the plane here. I've been your host, Noir. I go by He, They. You can find me in a couple of hours over on the Gilding Light channel for Eclipsia. And for everything else, just follow me on Twitter. Anita.
Hi, I'm Anita. I'm your channel runner here at Critical Misses, and you can find me here. Sometimes, other times you can find me other places. But follow me on Twitter. You might be able to figure out where I am, where I will be next. Kate, tell us all about yourself.
I'm Kate. I use she, her pronouns. Quickly before I plug myself, I want to thank you both so much for having me. This has been such a wonderful experience.
Thanks so much.
This has been so much fun. Thank you for joining us. And this is usually where I bully people to tell them we want you back. So consider yourself bullied.
I would love to. This has been a delight. You can find me on Twitter at BlueStalkingETC, or if you are a fan of Magpie, you can find me in the Magpie Discord more often than is healthy for me. Because
addictions are a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Magpie community though, so it's always kind of work, but it's kind of not,
Yeah.
Or you can find my if you like monster erotica, I write a weekly blog called Tales of Voracious, which you can find on my Twitter, or just if you look at Tales of Voracious on Google, it will pop up, and you'll know because it's full of monster porn.
And also, no more bad dragons. Look up Etsy.
Oh yeah, if you need help finding dildos or sex toys that are monster related, I got you. Just let me know what you're looking for, and I will find it for you. No problem.
It's not safe for work, but here's the link to Tales of Voracious.
All right, and with that brings our episode to a close. You know what? Let's go ahead and we're going to raid our friend Nomadic, who is building. Yeah, Gnome is building. Gnome is doing some world building for a 5th edition campaign that I'll be joining him in. It's going to be me, Eris, Cadiosaurus, and Liv. Yeah. It's going to be a fantastic time. So check out the world that we'll be playing in and tell Gnome I said hi.
All right, everybody, we're going to head over to our lovely, lovely pal at Nomadic. I didn't hit unraid. No.
We always have this issue.
Raid has been created. All right. We're going to go say hi over there. Thank you all so much for stopping by and joining us. But until next time, the ritual has concluded. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.